Yo guys, I'm back with a new video. This time I will walk you through how I made my brand new track called Victorious, which will be out by the time this video is out. This track is released on an EP between two sick labels, which is House District Records and Blasting Records. I'm super happy to be part of this EP, and I suggest you check out the other tracks in the EP as well. So now let's get into the video. First off, I want to say I started this idea in the 6th of April, which is like over half a year ago, and I've basically been working on this track for months because I wasn't like inspired at the start how to finish it, but eventually it came out well, and I've spent 61 hours on it, which is also more than I usually spend on my projects, and this project means a lot to me, so I'm excited to show you a lot of the stuff that I do in this project, and I hope you're gonna learn something. So let's start off by listening to the track. I don't have a first break, I only have a second break in this track. It's starting straight in the build-up, so I think we should start by listening to how the build-up and the first drop sounds, and I will walk you through it. Okay, so that's how the build-up and first drop sounds. I think we should start by checking out the drop, and I will go to the build-up after. So as you can hear, this is a drop which is really bass heavy, and it has like not a real melody like normal Bigroom tracks. So yeah, it's very important to fill out this kind of drops with a lot of air candies and other background stuff, which we will get into. But I think we should start off by checking the kick. So first off, we have a punch kick. It's a side kick from a Cashmere pack, no processing done on it. And then we have a sub kick. So how I process this, I made sure it's 100% mono, and then I have an EQ taking away the highs, and because I just want the sub frequencies of it. And I also boosted the root note, which is D sharp of this track. And that's it. And I have a side chain, which is the classic chain on Kickstart. And next up, we have the mid bass. It's just like a gritty bass from a Husman Patreon pack. It sounds a bit, this is how it sounds without processing. And with processing it's like this. So basically for this, all I did was taking away the sub frequencies of it, so it's not gonna clash with the sub. Another EQ taking away some bad frequencies. As you can hear, they're really annoying frequencies. And also here's my secret for giving it a nice texture. So without, it sounds like this. And with, I really like this filter to give it like a nice character. And then I used LFO tool to sidechain it. And then we also have Psychic. The processing on this is just EQ taking away the sub, so it's not clashing. Saturation and intensity for coloring the sound. And wow filter to give it that texture. So without, again, it sounds like this. And with, it sounds like this. It just gives it that nice little texture. But I took down the mix level because I didn't want it as much as the mid bass. And also kickstart for sidechain. So together the kick sounds like this. It's a really huge kick, as you can hear, and that was what I was going for. So to make it more interesting, in the fourth bar I was pitching it down and then up, as you can see, minus 400 and minus 200. And right before the mid fill, I also pitched up everything like this, 1 octave up, to make it transition better into the second part of the drop. And that's the kick. Now let's check out the other stuff. So I have some bass growls, which is going on in the background as well. So basically this is a Serum preset. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it's a Serum preset from one of the revealed packs. Without processing, it sounds like this. It's all about the processing for this one. So how the processing is, it's an EQ taking away the sub, so it's still not going to clash. And saturation and distortion to make it fatter and distorted. Intensity to give it some nice color. And again, wow filter, this is the secret to give it a texture. This is without. As you can hear, it's like the big deal breaker of this. And also I have a big ping pong delay, which is on 8/0 in time. This is to like help fill out the track, because in this kind of drops, when you don't have the main leads playing, you need to make sure that you fill up your drop nicely. So you can use this by filling up with reverb, ear candies, and delay, and those kind of stuff. And I also have a reverb, and just filter and sidechain. And then we have some plucks going on. So what I did is I made the sample unique, and I made one of them 100% left and the other one 100% right. This is to make your drop more wide, and it's gonna sound better. And also it's just following my root note, except here it's pitching the same as the bassline is, minus 400 and minus 200. So yeah, this really helps fill up the drop as well. And then we have some more background stuff, which is acid shots. Processing is distortion, EQ taking away the lows, reverb, and a huge ping pong delay again, just to fill up the drop. And I made it a bit more mono. And also I sidechain it. Then we have some weird reverse sound. This goes really well with the kick, so I decided it works out. And then we have some fill. And every fourth bar we have some impacts. and some white noise exhaust to really make the drop hit hard. This is important. Then we have reverse vocals, white noise rides to help fill up the highs, and ethnic vocals every fourth bar. It makes it like dream and helps fill up the drop as well. Since we don't have a melody, this is working really nice. And then also comes the claps. In the second part of the drop, I'm also introducing even more stuff, which I'm gonna come to, and more claps and stuff. And here's more of a background elements, crash. It helps drive the drop as well. Exhaust. And some crowd noise to help fill up the mids. And then some more air candies like big snare. That's it for the first part of the drop. Second part of the drop, I'm introducing this drum hits. It sounds a bit weird in its own context, but in the whole context of the drop, it sounds really cool. And then I'm adding some more top loops, like more groove. And stutter vocals, which I'm also introducing in the second part. So with this, it's just like a normal vocal chop sample, but I'm using gross beat, which is making it like really stuttery and helping up filling the background. So this is without processing. As you can hear, it's really empty, right? So the processing, it gets really big and helps fill up the atmosphere a lot. The processing of it is just EQ, take me the low, and the big reverb, and the big ping pong delay again. Gross beat, this is what makes it stutter. So without it's like this. So what's cool is that it's gonna stutter the reverb and delay as well. So if I put it up here, it wouldn't have done the same thing. So the order matters in the plugin, like where you put stuff. So if I put the gross beat first, it's not gonna affect the reverb and the delay. But when I do this, it will. And yeah, that's basically it for this. And in the second part, I'm also adding rides. Also introducing a new clap, which is coming off beat. And also for a second drop, I have a melody playing, and therefore I'm teasing it in the first drop, which is like this. It's just a normal silent preset, and I'm gonna show you the processing and stuff on it on the second drop when we get there. And I think that was the most for the first drop. Maybe we can go through the fill as well. So the fill, it's a sub drop, and then like breathing effects, and again the same stutter vocals. And then we have the big snare and this drum fill here. Together it sounds like this. So that's it for the first drop. Let's check out what we have in the build-up. So let's start off by the vocals. So I'm chopping up the vocals like this. I'm gonna show you the processing of it when we get to the break, because I have vocals in the break as well. And then I have the respace, which is playing only the root notes. And this is pitching up as well, like all other element after 4 bars. Then I have a lot of more atmospheric stuff, like reverse vocals. Some more tonal ambient stuff. Really helping to fill up the background. This as well. And it's also important that you make sure everything is pitching up in the second part together with the snares and stuff, which we will come to soon. And I have some downlifter, a faller sample, some church bells to fill up even more, and impact, and downlifter. And together all of those background stuff sounds like this. And then now we come to the main elements of the build-up, which is the snares and such. So as you can see, I'm doing them all in the piano roll instead of putting samples manually. So this way you have even more, control basically over your sounds. And one important thing when you do this is that you go into this setting here and you copy these settings here, because normally it's like this, and some weird other settings like this. This is how it is like normally, and you just copy mine and it's gonna be perfect. So let's go into the pattern here. So as you can see, it's just like to help fill up the groove. And the processing is just like an EQ. And then we have some crashes. So yeah, basically in the start, I'm doing something cool, which you can see now. I'm having a big ping pong delay, which I'm automating. So I do this to help fill up the atmosphere even more. But I don't want to have this playing like playback when it starts going faster. So I'm only doing this in the part where it's hitting slow. If not, it will get really messy. But this is a really cool way to fill up the space. And so yeah, here's the automation for it. I'm turning it off after 4 bars when everything starts going faster and pitching up. Then I have marching snares. And why piano roll is really good for this kind of stuff is that you have more control of doing like ear candy effects. So as you can see here, I'm putting 1 octave up, like marching stuff, and I'm putting down the velocity. So this way it fits way better in the mix. And also, as you can see here, I'm panning stuff left and right, which you can do in the piano roll as well. And towards the end, the marching snares is going from left to right as well with panning. And then we have our normal snares. As you can see, those are also going from left to right, and some more interesting like rolling effects here, you know, to make it more interesting. And we have some more risers, but before those, let's check out how all these elements sounds together. It sounds really full and interesting. So now is the risers. And for this one, I just filter in with the volume to make it come in nicely. Then I have a white noise uplifter and the alarm and some like LFO riser. As you can see, for the LFO riser, I'm fading it out nicely with the volume as well. And there's the last riser. Together, the riser sounds like this. And with the snares and stuff, it sounds like this. And here's my automations. So I have a fruity balance on the snares and the hats, which is taking down the volume towards the drop to make the drop hit harder. And also here's the automation, which I'm linking everything to pitch it up. All of the snares and crashes, the hats, and those kind of stuff. That was most for the first build up and drop. I think let's head over to the break. So let's have a listen. Can you hear me calling for you? Yeah, I'm free falling, I'ma keep on falling for you. I'm free. I'm loving all that you do. Can't you see? I'm crashing right into you. Okay, that's the first break. We're gonna do the climax part later. So it starts off by the drop end. I'm having a stutter effect on the vocals like this. Also I'm filtering it in to make it sound more smooth. And let's first check out the vocals and the vocal processing. Yeah, I'm free falling, can you hear me call? I'm free falling, I'ma keep on falling. So, as you can hear, it's like really wet and atmospheric. And this vocal processing is really simple. This is not how I would process like progressive house vocals or more clean vocals. But yeah, it's just a EQ taking away some resonating frequencies. Yeah, I'm free falling, can you hear bank up you? As you can hear, they're all resonating and boxy. So I'm just doing those with like a dynamic EQ. So it's just taking down whenever some bad frequencies are playing. And just taming the frequencies. Then I have a compressor. And a de-esser to get rid of the bad S's. And Endless Smile I'm doing for both the reverb and the delay. It's like, it has a different character than normal reverb has, which I really liked. And then, yeah, this filter is just for here. And I think that's it. In the second part, I'm adding the same vocals 1 octave up. Just like this. It's basically just 1 octave up, and I'm blending them nicely together in the volume. As you can hear, it gives like a really nice energy to it when the track part hits, which was what I was wanting. Next thing up is our respace. So as you can see, I'm making a reverse respace with fruity balance automation with volume and pitching it up. And this is how the bassline is. I'm just having some interesting glides and stuff. And the processing of it is just like an R bass. And I'm using a limiter. I'm giving it 18 dB gain, and I'm taking out the output level. This is what I'm doing for making the signal more stable. As you can see, it's not clipping, but it's making it more stable. It's a really cool technique. And then I'm just taking away the above 200 Hertz and making it mono with this EQ. And that's it for the respace. Then we have some strings. It's the strings from Contact Library. Processing is really simple. just EQ, taking away lows. And I'm having this equalizer here to give it a nice character. And also using this compressor, stereo enhancer to make it more wide. And BX control I was using just to check if it was phasing with other sounds. And the kickstart is for a sidechain, which is in the sidechain part of the climax, which I will get to eventually. Then I have Staccato Strings. So this is teasing my climax melody already, which is really important that you glue your track together and tease your melodies. So it's playing in my bass line, but it's playing the rhythm of the leads already. So it sounds like this. And the processing is just simple EQ, taking away lows, and reverb. I'm taking away the lows of everything else beside the bass, basically to give space for the bass. And then I have pads. It's just on silent pads. I'm just using EQ for this and Fruity Balance to automate the volume, to make it like a reverse pad light here. Then I'm also automating the cutoff filter of it as well, which is like this. So it's just going up towards the climax to help with the transitions, basically. And then I have another dreamy pad. So this one is just taking away the lows with EQ, and I'm making it super wide, basically, just to make the whole break more wide and yeah, the stereo image. And then I have some whistles in the background going on every second bar. So together with the pads and the strings and stuff, it sounds like this. And then now I will show you more of the ambient stuff that I used in the background. So reverse vocals. This is helping really nice in the transitions. Then some sweep transition. Normal ambience, which we were also using in the build-up. A tonal ambience. Yeah, some drone. And the same impacts like before. And then there's like an up and down lifter. That's it for the first part of the break. So let's move on to the trap part. The only new thing that I'm doing is I'm removing the respace, and I'm having 808s and trap kick and trap snare, and also hi-hats. And I'm also teasing the top melody of the climax part. So let's check out the trap stuff first. So the trap stuff together sounds like this. So let's check out the hi-hats first. So I made this in piano roll, just some really cool melody, like a groove rather. And as you can see on the rolls and stuff, I am tweaking the velocity so it gets more clean. Also, I'm like panning stuff here to make it more interesting. And then we have a trap kick. And this is playing with 808, so I'm sidechaining the 808 to each time the trap kick is playing. So let's check out the 808. The processing is just like saturation and EQ, taking away the super low end, which you cannot hear. And here's the fruity balance, which I'm automating. So I didn't want to use the punch of this 808, I wanted to use a really strong kick instead, so that's why I'm sidechaining it to it. And then having some snares just hitting offbeat. And the 808s is basically just following my bass line, the same as the chords. That's it for those. Next up, let's check the top melody, which we're introducing as well. So yeah, that's basically it for the second part as well. Now, let's check out the climax part. Okay, that's it for the hands up moment. Maybe we should check out the leads and chords first. So yeah, here is the leads alone. Okay, I'm gonna solo them individually. And my Nexus is bugged, so I cannot show you unless I restart FL. But it's not that important, so here's the four like main leads that I used together. They're all going into the same channel, and it's just a simple EQ. Before it goes into the bus, I'm taking away the below 100 Hz. And here's the bus. So how the processing is an EQ. I'm boosting just the highs and the mids, and also taming the mids. Then I have a saturation, and I'm using OTT to compress the leads. Harmonic maximizer to boost, it gives a really nice character. I'm using Soothe to clean up it's like a dynamic EQ to clean up the frequencies. And just the final EQ just to do some small adjustments. And this effector I'm using to automate in the end of the climax, which I will show you later. And I'm using Patcher for having a reverb and delay in the same. And the kickstart is for the second part with kick. And next up, let's check out the chords. So I'm having two layers, and basically it's one for the body and one for the high end. So this is for the body. And this is for my high end. And together they sound really powerful. So they're going into each individual mixer channel. So the first one, I'm just doing a crazy EQ, dipping some frequencies I didn't like. And second one, I'm just taking away the lows and using a Pig Tech to give it some more body. And they're both going into the same bus, which is the same processing as the leads basically. EQ and saturation and this intensity to color the sound, OTT to compress them, and this to give a nice character as well. soothe to clean up the frequencies, and this is the filter I'm using. And yeah, here is the delay and reverb. So as you can see, I am having filter here, which is working for both the leads and the chords together. So when you have a 16 bars hands up moment like this, it's important to make it a bit less boring. So therefore in the first 8 bars, I'm having this filter down, and I'm filling up the space when it's filtering down with other drums and vocals and that kind of stuff. So let's check out the bass. Here's the bass that I'm using. It's just a Spire bass, Camel Crusher for distortion, and I'm just taking away the highs because I only want to sub off it, and I just boosted the low end a bit more. And I also made it completely mono. So as you can see, it's also not playing in the gaps here. So in the gaps here I have some impact and some drums and stuff playing instead, which I will show you in a sec. So yeah, here's when it's filtered down, I'm having this kind of stuff. A deep impact, like some drum rolls, crashes, and let's see. I think that's it for that part. And in the second part, where it's filtering down, I'm following the lead rhythm with the crashes and drums, and having cinematic drums. So I'm having 3 layers. One of them is to cover the low end, and one for the mids and one for the highs. And also I'm having vocals to fill up those parts. So in the end here, I'm having a delay automation to make it transition nicely into the sidechain and kick part. For the background stuff in the climax, I'm having just some sweeps and crashes and stuff like this. This is to help drive it and give it a nice impact. And some sweeps. And the big snare to transition into the next part. Yeah, and I'm also just having the atmospheric stuff and instruments from the break. This is also to help glue the track better together. So as you can see, it's the ambience from the break and the pads as well. So the second part, the only thing that's new is that I'm adding kick. I'm sidechaining the stuff and adding claps. So this is the kick. The only thing this is doing is it's following my bass line, so I'm pitching the tonal kick to follow my chords basically. And then we have, here's the stuff that we're adding, the crowd noise and the claps. That's the only thing that's new in the second part, sidechain, kick and the claps. And we're not filtering anymore. And in the end, I'm having this effector automations here for the leads. This is because we're going straight into the build-up, and I'm having effector on my leads in the build-up. So next up, I think let's hear the second build-up and second drop. Okay, that's how it sounds. So second build-up is pretty much the same as the first build-up, except I'm adding the synths here, which is playing in the second drop, but I'm teasing those with filter and effector. So that's the only difference on the build-up. And the pre-drop, I'm having a like war cry, like this. This is to make the energy even more wild, and the drop is gonna hit much harder. So yeah, let's just, the build-up is the same except the synths, which we went through, and the pre-drop vocal. So let's just go straight into the second drop. So this is the synths. I'm gonna go through the processing of it. So basically, it's just EQ, taking away lows and boosting highs, saturation, intensity to color it, and a huge reverb, delay. And I'm also using the effector for the automation in build-up, but I'm also having the automations going on in the second part. And this is the filter I'm using. And pancake, this was for panning in the first drop. And this is the sidechain on it. So the preset, it's a silent preset, which is sounding kind of like an ARP. So that's why it's like so swingy as well, because it's not really a melody, but it's like a really groovy, swingy melody, like rhythm. So that's it. It works really well in this kind of drop. So what more is there? The drop is the same, except I'm having all of the drums and stuff playing from the start. One more thing that I can show you is on the plugs. So I'm sidechaining the synths and the plugs together. So every time the synth is playing, the plugs is gonna duck in the volume with this compressor here. So why I was doing this is because this has a really own character, this plugs, and if I wasn't controlling it, it would be clashing together. So if I turn it off, it's gonna be clashing together. As you can hear, it's just really not fitting together. But when I'm compressing it like this, it helps fill up the atmosphere a lot and make the drop as wide. So if I remove it, it's gonna sound less, it's gonna sound more boring and yeah, less filled up. I'm losing a lot if I remove it, so that's why I did it. And again, pretty much the same, except the melody and this kind of stuff. And after 8 bars, I'm having a switch vocals like this. Switch. And the leads is having effector on them like this. And I'm also having some plugs, which is playing a call and response. So here I was just basically playing with the effector, both the mix level and the X and Y parameters to make it fit well to the mix. And I thought it sounded interesting, so that's why I had it. And I think there is nothing more to show you in the second drop. I think that was the most for the whole track. I could show you how I mastered it. So I play without master because if not, my CPU would be dying. So I'll turn on the master now again. So what we have on the master channel is an EQ, taking down the output level because I like to have headroom when I master. I'm taking away the side information to 150 Hz, and I'm just dipping some bad like coloring EQ in the end of like some bad frequencies I was just dipping. And endless smile I'm using for my automations in the buildup to make the drop hit harder. And the Fab Filter Simplon is a filter for taking off the low end towards the drop, which is this one. Then also having Fruiting Balance, which is automating as well here. So the volume is going down when we approach the drop and goes back up again when the drop hits. Then I have a J37 for saturation. Then I'm having this Gulfos plugin, which is basically, I'm just tweaking these two knobs, recover and tame. So it's like, it's matching with a perfect stereo spectrum. And I'm just recovering and taming frequencies which is lacking. So as you can see, if I play some of the build-up, it's just like recovering and taming those frequencies which is missing or is too much. And then I'm using this classic clipper for boosting the volume to my desired level. And I'm having this brick wall limiter at the end to make sure it doesn't go above 0 dB. So as you can see, I'm gonna play a second drop for you with this on. It's gonna lag probably. And I'm just having the span and the loudness meter to control the end, how far I'm pushing it. So it's very important that when you master and push it up, it's important that you take reference from the loudest part of your song. So it's usually the second drop, but where it's the loudest, it's important that that's where you go take reference when you master. So yeah, that's basically my simple mastering chain as well, nothing special. And yeah, this was my full project walkthrough of how I made this track victorious. So again, it will be out by the time that this video is uploaded, and I hope you learned some cool tricks from this project walkthrough. If there is something I missed out on, or if you have any questions regarding anything in the project, then let me know and I will answer as good as I can. And apart from that, I just hope you enjoyed my project walkthrough and enjoyed this track as well. And feel free to leave suggestions for future videos in the description as well, or in the comments, I mean. And take care.